The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to be back and to be here with you today. You have no idea how glad I am to be back. This entire show is meant to be interactive, and the whole point of this show is to help you to get the information, whether it's answers or more questions, to help you to work with your child on the autism spectrum for them to reach their highest potential. And I get so excited when we talk about potential for our kids, because we know that wherever they are on the spectrum, that there is progress to be had. And in fact, we know how to begin to get to that progress. And, you know, many, many years ago, we didn't know this and it wasn't widely accepted. But the truth of the matter is that science has shown us time and time again that ABA, applied behavior analysis, is effective with all of our kids, and that it can be used in conjunction with other things, right? Every child is different. And what we see a lot of times in autism is that what works for one child doesn't necessarily work for another child. And it's very frustrating for those of us who have kids on the spectrum. But the truth is that with ABA, we know that as we change variables, no cookie cutter here, because our kids are all different, but we can create the circumstances in which progress can happen for all of our children. They're not all going to end up in the same place because they don't all start in the same place. And they have different skill sets, different abilities, but they're all worth it. And that's the truth. So we are here on this journey with you to help you, to hook you up with answers. And I hope that you will take part. There are lots of different ways that you can connect with us. And I'm going to have Emily start to cycle through some of the different ways that you can get a hold of us here in the studio. But I want to remind you that the only place right now that you can watch us live is, in fact, on autism-live.com. If you're watching us there, you will see that there is this desktop, right? You have to make sure that you have the up-to-date player. I know when I was away, the wonderful Dr. Jonathan Tarbox filled in for me on Wednesday with Dr. Doreen Grampachet, and I wanted to watch it. I was so excited to see what they were going to talk about, and so I was watching it on a family member's computer, and they didn't have the up-to-date player so that I could watch it, and I had to download it. So I've seen sometimes what you guys have to do. Make sure you have the up-to-date player, but then as soon as I had the up-to-date player, you know, the screen popped up on the desk, and I was able to watch. And what a wonderful hour. If you didn't get to see that, I hope that you'll watch it on Blip or YouTube, or you can even download it on iTunes. It was last Wednesday. But in any case, while you're there on Autism Live, there is a bulletin board where it says Shannon is answering right now, and you can type in a question. You do not have to log on. You do not have to register a credit card number. Nobody's looking for your personal information. And in this world of you know, all the different things where people are trying to collect information on you, isn't that a lovely thing? And when you ask your question, it pops up here, and I get to see it and be able to ferry it to whoever, if it's somebody who's sitting next to me at the time or somebody who's coming later on in the week, so we can talk about it and get you hooked up with those answers. If today is your first time watching the show, if you've never seen this show before, I want to welcome you. And I want to remind everyone, new and old viewers, that I am not an expert in ABA. And by the way, ABA is not the only thing we talk about here. We talk about the full gamut, because while ABA is important and all of our kids need to have it, and we need to get our heads wrapped around that all of our kids need to have some level of ABA. there's so much more to being a family member, to having this journey be something that you can get through with dignity and grace and fun and have everybody thrive. So we do talk about the full gamut of things, but I am not an expert in ABA. I'm not an expert in nutrition. What else am I not an expert in? I'm not a lawyer, but I am a mom. I am a mom who, my son is just recently turned 9.5. He was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and he started ABA when he was 3. And by the way, he was very profoundly affected by autism, self-injurious behavior, regular tantrums, hitting and kicking and biting other people, and lost all of his language, had been speaking in sentences, and it all went away. And he is now 9.5 and very verbal. I'll tell a story later on about how verbal my child is. But I'm so grateful because I ran into the right people who had the right information, who made sure that I knew how important ABA was, and hooked me up with the information and the people and other parents so that I did not have to reinvent a wheel. And I've said this before, that the main person who helped hook us up and let me know how important ABA was and let me see her child so that I could see how much progress was possible. A couple of years later, I cried and said to her, how am I ever going to repay you? And she said, Shannon, you're going to pay it forward. And we talk about all the time about how that is my mission in life. First and foremost, to be there as a parent for my child and help him to reach his potential. And then just below that is to make sure that I pay forward all of the great things. So that's what I'm doing here. I want to pay it forward, and I want to pay it forward to you. So let me know what you need. Let me know what's important to you, and we will get on it. And I appreciate all of your patience. It's been a bumpy month, and as many of you know, and I heard from a lot of you with your condolences, my mom passed away last Sunday. And, that is what it is. But even, my mom was part of this journey, and she knew how important it was for all of you to get this information. I think my mother handed out more business cards about this show than I could ever. So I appreciate your patience, but we're back on the job here. Of course, we're coming up against the holidays, so we only have a few live shows before our holiday hiatus, but we're here, and we want to help you, and we want to hold hands with you to let you know you can do this, right? We say, si se puede. We can all do this if we hold hands. All right. That's my message for today. Write in, let us know. And especially right now, we're coming up with our whole 2013 concept. So love to hear from you about the kinds of things you want to see on the show, what you want to see more of, and what you want to see less of, okay? All right, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is the time of day when we take on one word, one phrase, one anagram, and try to demystify it, figure out what in the hey nani are we talking about here. Okay. Today, it's very timely. We decide these things months in advance, what our jargon of the day is going to be, and this is very appropriate for me today. It is FBA, not the FBI, right? We're not calling in the FBI to figure out what's up with autism, but the FBA is really going to help us to know what's going on. All right. What does this mean, and when do we need it? Because you're going to hear this said from time to time. Here's our actual definition. FBA stands for Functional Behavior Assessment. Now, just between you and I heard the term FBA for probably a year before I said, what exactly are we talking about, right? And then once I knew, okay, oh, it's this thing. Yes, that's been very helpful to us. Then I learned the term FBA. But it wasn't until I came and was hosting the show that they impressed upon me it was important that I knew that it was functional behavior assessment, and I probably said it wrong a gazillion and 18 times. So how important is it you know that it's a functional behavior assessment? Not so much. But it is important that you know what it does and how it's going to help you and your child. It is a multi-step problem-solving assessment process designed to determine the function of a behavior. Who cares? Why do we care? Your child's throwing a tantrum. Your child's hitting his head against the floor. She's biting her sister. Who cares, right? Except that this is the thing that stops that. This is the thing that turns that around. Because in our working terms, FBA is an essential process that helps us understand why challenging behavior is happening and what we can do to change it effectively and efficiently. Woohoo! If you've ever been sitting there, if you belong to the kitchen floor club that Nancy Osbaugh Jackson and I belong to, that you've been on your kitchen floor, on your hands and knees or flat on your back going, I don't know what I'm going to do. My child is doing X, Y, and Z, and I don't know if I can make it through it. This is your best friend. The FBA is when somebody comes in and looks at it and says, okay, why is this behavior happening? What do we need to do about it? But the first step is understanding what is the behavior and why is it happening. We know that every single behavior that somebody does over and over and over again, and if your child is tantruming, that's an over and over and over again. The tantrum might be slightly different each time, but if that behavior is happening, there's a reason why. It's getting some sort of paycheck. It's not happening out of thin air. We're never in the position where we're saying, well, that's just autism. Okay? That's empowering to know, okay, there's a reason why this is happening. And if there's a reason why this is happening, can we manipulate some variables here and change this behavior? And the answer to that is yes, we can. I saw this happen in my own home. I have seen this in my child's classroom. There's a whole way of looking at it, and we don't want to make assumptions, and we don't want to try to do this ourselves. Why? Because as much as we say to our children sometimes, I have eyes in the back of my head, I can see 360, your child says, how'd you know that? How did you know that I was playing with this toy when you told me not to? And I always say to my son, because I have supernatural powers. And he says, Mom, stop that. You do not, right? We don't have eyes in the back of our head. We can't see 360 degrees. And an FBA requires somebody who's really trained and who has the ability to stand back and see exactly everything that's happening. Then they can say, here is why this behavior is happening. And then we know, once we know the function of the behavior, we know scientifically what things work on that behavior. It's sort of like a decision tree. It's like, ooh, there's this, and we can pick this and this and this. It really gets much easier. And if you, we've talked a little bit before. In fact, they talked about it, Dr. Doreen and Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, on Wednesday on the show that they did together. There is something of the behavior, it's called the behavior builder, I think that's what it's called, in skills, where if you have the FBA and you have the function of the behavior, you can put it in and you can create a behavior intervention plan without an expert. But the part you need the expert for is the FBA, to figure out what is the function of the behavior. We're going to talk more about that because we are going to talk about tantrums, but the FBA, if your child is having an issue at school and you're getting a note coming home from school saying, Rebecca is doing X, Y, and Z at school, ask them to do an FBA on it and to come up with a behavior intervention plan, and that's when things will change. And you can ask the school to do it, and they have to do it. And they have to have somebody that's an expert and reasonable at it. All right, but moving right along, let's get to we always have a question of the day for you. And our question today is, quite simply, what does it take to calm your child after a meltdown? And people use the terms tantrums and meltdowns, and it's always interesting to me because it doesn't mean the same thing to all people. So I just want to clarify, for me, a tantrum is challenging behavior from the child. And fill in the blank, it could be any one of 1,000 things, right? But a meltdown is when it has gone to such an extreme that even if you gave the child the thing that was causing the tantrum to begin with, it still wouldn't stop it, right? And if you have a child on the autism spectrum, you probably know exactly what that looks like, right? And getting your child, I always think of it as those old record players. You know how sometime on an old, I know, before CDs, you put the little needle down on the record, and sometimes it would get stuck in a groove, and it would just go over that same little phrase over and over and over again because it couldn't, and you had to like bump the player or move the needle to get it out of the groove. And the longer it stayed in the groove, the longer it would stay in the groove, and the harder it would be to get it out. And that's how I would look at my child when he would have meltdowns and think, okay, what are we going to be able to do to bump the needle out of the groove? What does it take for you to get your child to calm down? For some people, the child has to exhaust themselves and sleep to hit the reset button, right? But let's share some ideas, because maybe you have something that helps you to reset your child that would help somebody else. So write into us on Facebook. We're going to check on these a little bit later. What does it take for you to calm your child down after a meltdown? And I've learned with my child that sometimes there are sometimes when I can head a meltdown off at the pass. There are other times when it's just not going to happen. And I'm just going to bet you that probably tonight or tomorrow, my child's going to have a meltdown. Too much has happened in the last week. He's going to have a meltdown. And I've learned that sometimes I got to say, okay, if we're out in public, it's like time to go home, because he's just going to need to cry. And I even say that to him sometimes. I say, you know what, honey? You're working yourself up to a cry. You don't have to get permission for it. Just let yourself cry. And then the floodgates open. You know, and it's okay. And I tell him it's okay to cry. And that sometimes now it either stops the meltdown, heads it off at the pass, or it's the thing that ends it, depending on where we are in it, is that he has to get to the point where he can cry. When he was little, he would have to get to the point where he would go to sleep. Rough. But we're going to talk more about that. We always have a topic of the day. And in case you could not guess, our topic of the day today, tantrums and meltdowns. What we do for these, what we can do for them, what they mean. I'll tell you right now, they don't mean that we're bad parents or that our kids are bad. It just means that we haven't found the way to communicate as efficiently as we need to, but we can work towards that, absolutely. So that's our topic of the day. And some of the different things that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk a little bit about funding a little later on. In just a few minutes after our break, we're going to talk about our toy of the day, our toy recommendation. And then I'm so excited because it has been over a month since I have been able to be in the studio with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who is the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, who just so fabulously filled in for me on Wednesday for Ask Dr. Doreen. I was riveted. I don't know about you guys, but I sat there and was just absolutely riveted, thought it was just great. And he's always wonderful. He's going to be with us today answering your questions and talking about a few things that we've been trying to talk about for over a month. It's like we've been cursed every time that he's about to come here. I've had to go. But in any case, a lot more that we're going to be talking about today, and letting you know about an upcoming conference that's coming up and some really fabulous guests that we have scheduled for next week. A little programming note. Next week, we will be here Monday through Thursday, and starting on Friday, we will be on a holiday hiatus where it looks like we will not be back until mid-January. Taken some time, but we will replay all of the old shows, the oldies but the goodies, here at Autism Live. So if you have questions, this is the week. Pile them on. Give me some work to do. I need it, and I'm looking forward to it and thrilled to be here. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, the toy of the day. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick with us.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. For the month of December, we're going to be making wrapping paper. The skills we'll be focusing on today are pattern making, which is an academic skill. While you're doing this, you can also work on colors and shapes with your child. The materials you'll be needing are brown paper bag, paint, water, paintbrush, a tray or paper plate, paper towel, a sharp knife, which the adult will be the only one using, scissors, cookie cutters, and potatoes. And of course, you can always use pre-made stamps or sponges to use. All right, let's get to it. The first thing you want to do is you're going to take your potato and you're going to cut it in half. So now I've got 2 stamps I could possibly use. So I'm going to make a star, and you can always do this freehand. I like the cookie cutters because it makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to take the cookie cutter, I'm going to squish that in there. Then I'm going to take my knife, I'm gonna cut along the edge and then I'm gonna pop it out. And voila. Now that I've done this, I'm gonna peel out the potato and pull this out, and ta-da, there's my star. I'll be taking my recyclable paper bag and cutting it open. I'm just cutting along the edge. Now that I have this done, I'm going to remove the handles, like so. And then here you are. All right, now that I have this ready, it's a great time to have the kids join in. So I'm grabbing my reusable plate, and while you're squeezing out the paints to use, this is a great time to have your kids label the different colors and to discuss how to mix the colors together to make secondary colors. Now that I have my paint and my stamps ready, well, now it's time to start making the fun patterns. So I've got my piece of paper in front of me. I'm going to take my star stamp and I'm going to just dip it in the green paint I just mixed. See that there? And now I'm going to place it onto my paper. Depending on the skill level of your child, when you grab your stamps, you can ask them to label the shapes. You can start making the pattern, and I can ask my child questions like, what comes next? Or have them come up with the pattern themselves, just straight from their head. Here are a few examples of wrapping paper that I completed today. When you complete your wrapping paper, again, I hope you take a photo of it and share it with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/autismlive. I look forward to seeing them and seeing you next month. Bye.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back. It's time for our toy recommendation of the day, and I couldn't be more ecstatic to recommend this particular brand of toys because they're a very big deal in my household. If you watch the show at all, you know we talk about this from time to time. When my son was diagnosed with autism, he wasn't playing with toys at all, or the toys that he was playing with, he wasn't playing with in the way that you were supposed to play with them. And it was a really devastating thing as a mom to see your child playing with toys and only lining them up and not being productive with them, and it really is an emotional thing. And one of the first things that we asked the therapists as they came to our home was, what should we get him? What kinds of things should we be doing with him? And a therapist said to us, have you tried Legos? And I'll be honest with you, it had not occurred to me at that point. He was 3, and he was still mouthing things, and I was thinking of the really little Legos, the ones that have taken over my home now. But they pointed out that there are Duplos first. And we went out that night and got a big bag of Duplos. And actually, I remembered that years before, how funny is this? My son had won this big tub of Duplos in an Easter egg hunt that they had all these kids. He was, my goodness, was he even one? I think he was just barely walking, and they had one golden egg that they had hidden, and none of the other kids could find it. There were 7-year-olds who couldn't find it, but of course, my child, who I didn't yet know had autism, found the golden egg. And so he must have been walking, and he won this big thing of Duplos. So now we had 2 big things of Duplos, and the therapist sat down with my child to play with the Duplos, and it was amazing, because you could see that something clicked. He understood, oh, this goes with this, and now I get to make what I want to make. And all of the creative stuff that was in him that did not have an outlet, that we assumed wasn't there, by the way, started to come out. And I would say to you that he probably played with those Duplos for maybe 4 to 5 months, and then we moved to Legos. And we just bought the tub of Legos first so that he could put them together in different ways. And as the years have gone, talk about a toy that grows with a child. Eventually, he began to get the kits. And the kits come in so many different varieties. You know, there's Lego City, so that if your child is into trucks, or if they're into building houses, you know, there are buildings that you can buy. By the way, if you have girls, there's a whole new line of Lego toys called the Lego Friends. So there's doll houses and the little girl characters that are they're girl colors, and I hate to be stereotypical about things, but the truth is that the girls are really drawn to them. And I think what a great thing, because I always thought Legos were cool and being able to build a house was cool, and now they come in all these different shades that are much more gratifying for a lot of girls, maybe not all girls. But in any case, then there's the Star Wars Legos, and there's the SpongeBob Legos, and there's the Architect Legos, and you know, endless brands. There are Hobbit Legos. So there's never a lack for things to get the child. And some kids really like to sit and put the Legos together to follow the kit rules. My son now puts the Legos completely together, follows the kit rules, and we always have a bet about how long is it going to stay together the way that it was intended by Lego, because he wants to then take it apart and do it his way. My mother used to laugh at me because many Christmases ago, we had a big spaceship Lego to put together on Christmas morning, and my son was too young to follow the instructions. So I sat there at the dining room table and for hours putting together this thing, only to realize that he'd also gotten another tub of Legos, and he was across the room putting together a spaceship too. And when we were done, we put the two of them together, and his was cooler. His was much cooler. And again, talk about growing with a child. I can remember the first things that he used to build were these, we called them Seussian boats. They looked like something out of a Dr. Seuss book, but they were boats. They were houseboats that he would build, and he would say boat. It encouraged him to speak. And they had these crazy windows. I wish we had taken photographs and videos of them. I don't think it occurred to us. But it has continued. He's 9 years old, and I will tell you that his Christmas list is Legos. He wants Legos. And we all know, if you've watched the show, my child loves video games, and he does love his Lego video games, but he will stop playing video games to sit and do Legos and build something. And that is a beautiful thing. It helps our children to be able to express themselves, to be creative. It's something you can do with your child. You can start very small. So it can be something that over the years you amass, and it can grow to the point where you have to have storage systems. If you're at that point, talk to me. We have some really good storage systems. But you can start very small. For a gift of between $10 and $20, you can give a child a box of Legos that can keep them busy for a year. It's an amazing thing. And then you get into the minifigures. Don't even get me started. They have those mystery minifigures, which are great reinforcers if you've got a week-long goal that you're working towards, and you say, you get this, and you're going to get a minifigure, and they get to rip it open and feel it beforehand to see if it's the one they want, and rip it open and be surprised. Very fun. Very, very fun. Legos, they're fabulous for all of our kids, a really good time. Decide whether you need to start with the Duplos or the Legos first. If it's a mouthing issue, I would recommend starting with the Duplos. But really good toys that are durable and last for our kids too on the spectrum. Legos, you gotta love them. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to talk a little bit more about funding. That's what you were promised today, some things that we can be doing during the holiday season that can be useful and helpful to us, so stick with us.
Every child with autism deserves a bright future.
Without further clarification, the Affordable Care Act could actually result in less benefits for individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
We urge Catherine Sebelius to clarify the Affordable Health Care Act.
She can make one change, one little minor change, to make applied behavioral analysis be part of the health care plan.
By signing this petition, you are protecting the health care benefits of individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
We need to make sure
that we are heard
and seen. Sign a petition at autism-live.com.
Here's how you can show your infinite support. Create your own infinity ribbon. What you're going to do is take a ribbon that's been cut about 8 inches long, and you're going to grab one end and then twist it, and then take the two ends and join them together, and then tape it together. And then I'm going to flip it around and take another piece of tape, and what I have is double-sided sticky tape. Squeeze down. You have your very own infinity ribbon.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
The possibilities are infinite.
with ABA, the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
The possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
The possibilities are infinite.
Like many of you, we're just getting first news about a terrible, deadly shooting having happened this morning in a Connecticut preschool, and we're just so saddened and sick at heart that these kinds of things can happen, and we want everyone to know that our thoughts and prayers are with the families. It's just it takes your breath away that something like that can happen, and we'll await more news and see if we can update you as things go on. But again, a shooting apparently in Sandy Hook Elementary in Newton, Connecticut this morning. They're reporting 27 dead and 18 children among those 27 dead. Absolutely devastating. If you're a praying person, boy, today is a day for prayers about that, and our thoughts are with everyone in Connecticut. You know, hard to segue, but I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about funding, because on this journey through autism, funding can be one of the most difficult things, and especially this time of year. I was talking with somebody about that this weekend. You know, this is supposed to be a magical time of year when magic things happen and miracles happen, and our hearts are uplifted. And yet, when terrible things happen, and when there is want, whether it's want for a loved one, want for peace, want for money to put food on the table, want to be able to give a child a toy. You know, it's different for all people, but want is devastating at any time, but especially during the holidays. And I want to point out to all of you, and we've talked about this before on the show, that I had a couple of holidays on this journey through autism where it literally brought me to my knees. And I hope that if you are someone who is having a hard time this holiday for whatever reason, if it's funding or if it's other things, that you will reach out for help. And we wanted to talk a little bit about what some of the things are that you can reach out for help. The first one being, the one that was particularly helpful to me on the worst Christmas that we went through, is that Talk About Curing Autism. We've had featured them on the show, and they're a wonderful organization. You can go to their main website. There, it's on the screen for you, and find out more information about them and the kinds of things that they do. But I really encourage you to belong to a local group too, because they have local support groups that are really, really helpful. And at this time of year, the local support groups, when they're able to, perhaps not all of them, will put out a call and saying, is there anybody that particularly needs help this holiday season? And you can either nominate someone if you know someone and say, I'm aware of this family and they need some help, or you can say, raise your hand and say for yourself, I need some help. And I know how hard that is. I know firsthand how hard that is. But, you know, when it comes to our kids, we have to prioritize, and asking for help clearly is not the worst thing that there is. Clearly, right? And I can tell you, as someone who did raise her hand and say, you know what, I need some help and assistance, that the feeling that comes when you do that is absolutely remarkable. I said to somebody the other day, you know, how good do you feel when you're able to help someone? How much does that take you outside of your stuff? Because we all have stuff, right? Every single one of us has stuff going on, right? And it's easy to get bogged down in it and to forget all the other things that are going on. And when you're able to help somebody else, it lifts you up. And I was reminding somebody who was having trouble asking for help the other day, don't cheat everyone else out of that opportunity to help you. So I encourage you, that's a TACA, my local TACA group was asking the other day, is there somebody that particularly needs help? And I know that they're not the only group that's asking. So put it out there. If you need some help, now is the time to do that and to ask for it. And they're looking for people who need help through this holiday season. I know that the Holly Rod Foundation also is very supportive of families at this time of year. And there is a new program through Autism Care and Treatment Today that is their SOS program. For a family that cannot wait for a grant phase. If there's something going on and you need some help now, whether that means putting food on the table or the doctor bill that has to be paid before you can take your child back to the doctor, let people know. So there are 3 different organizations there that you can speak up to and say, hey, you know, I need some help and I need some help now. They're TACA, Talk About Curing Autism, so that's TACAnow.org. There's ACT Today, which is www.act-today.org. There's theirs. And the Holly Rod Foundation, I know they did last year. We're very supportive of families, and we'll try to get that website up for you on the Facebook page. But I think it was last year or the year before that they were able to give out hundreds of iPads at Christmas time to kids on the autism spectrum, a really, really wonderful thing. But my purpose today is to say to you, don't hesitate and don't be afraid to give people that opportunity to help you. I will tell you, I sit next to Nancy Allspaw Jackson on a weekly basis, and she is an amazing woman, and she says, you know, what gets me through all my hard days is that I know that I have the ability to help some people, and that I got to get up in the morning, and it's a great thing for her. And I know we've had Lisa Ackerman from TACA in here, and she has said, boy, you know, there's nothing like finding out that there's somebody that I actually can help. It's a fabulous, fabulous thing. So don't cheat them. If you need some help, ask for it and let them give you some help. And actually, we've had Holly Robinson Pete in here before, and she has said the same thing. You know, I'm incredibly lucky and grateful, and the ability to be able to help somebody else on this journey is everything. So amazing, amazing women. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got some things coming up that I want to make sure that you guys know about, so stick with us.
Autism used to affect 1 in every 10,000 children. Now it affects 1 in every 91 kids.
TACA is one of 5 organizations helping families living with autism today.
Our kids came back to life. There's a whole community out there, and now we're a part of it.
Oh, TACA has a place for me.
To find TACA, go to www.tacanow.org.
Please.
Welcome back. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about some upcoming things. In particular, I want to give you the actual information here. Okay, there is a conference, an ABAI conference that's going to be happening in Portland, and it's January 25th through the 27th. Now, on Monday at 10:30, Dr. Travis Thompson is going to be with us, and we've interviewed him before. He's a lovely, lovely man. I can't even tell you. I got to sit down with him and his books, and maybe we'll be able to show that interview to you in a couple of minutes. But What a wealth of knowledge this man is. And the only thing that I'm bummed about, we did this whole interview with him and it was lovely and he was just so sweet and he talked about his books and it was just lovely. And then we finished the interview, right? We turned off the camera and then I got to sit and talk with him for probably 20 minutes. Emily had to drag me kicking and screaming away because he was just so delightful to talk to. An amazing man who's been working in the field of autism, and it's very personal to him. Very, very personal to him. And he's training that next generation of teachers and practitioners to go into the classroom and be more prepared. It's something he feels very strongly about. And after probably 20, 25 years working in the field of autism, he discovered that someone in his family very close to him had autism. He was the person who said, this child needs to be diagnosed. And to talk to him about that on that level was just, breathtaking, absolutely amazing. And about, he said, you know, people want to say, when somebody says, well, my child was just diagnosed with autism, people want to say, oh, I'm so sorry. He goes, what are they sorry for? We know that we can help these kids. And they're individual and they're amazing people, and we know we can help them. So what's to be sorry for? He said, yeah, there's going to be some hard things, but you know, all kinds of progress here. Let's get busy. Let's get down to action. My kind of guy. In any case, he is the person who is the head of this entire conference, this ABAI conference. Again, it is in Portland, January 25th through the 27th, so it's coming up. And the last day to register at a reduced rate is December 19th, so that's next Wednesday. That's the early registration. Some of the different presenters that are going to be there, and by the way, there's a whole segment of this conference that's just for parents. Usually at an ABAI conference, there are a few parents that are there, and I would encourage parents to go. This is Disneyland for parents with children on the autism spectrum if you have started ABA or wanting to start ABA. And if you haven't started ABA and don't want to start ABA, then you need to start and want to start that. All the latest research being presented, information, access to the people and the experts, they're there, and they love it when parents ask them questions. When we were there last spring in Seattle, and we were running across huge convention with all these people, and we'd be running across the convention center, microphone in hand, with Emily with the camera, and going up to somebody and saying, hey, can we interview you? And, you know, we do a show for parents, and they were like, oh, we want to get this information to parents. So really amazing. But in any case, there's a whole segment of this particular conference that's just for parents. So parent advocate Cami Kramer is going to be there. Henry Rowan, Aubin Stalmer, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who's going to be joining us in just a few minutes, Sharon Reeve, Marjorie Charlop, Bridget Taylor, who's very well known, I'm sure you've seen her, Mark Duran, Peter Gerhardt, and Kathleen Piazza. Kathleen Piazza, we also did an interview with, is a brilliant expert in feeding issues. If you have a child who is having those kinds of issues, you want to hear her speak. Some of the different topics that they're going to talk about: naturalistic behavior intervention, challenging behavior, autism in criminal justice, something that we don't want to talk about but need to, generalization of social and play skills, fabulous topic, behavioral approach to perspective taking, I bet I know who's talking about that, brain imaging and autism subtypes. Oh, now we're, you know, you're just like talking wonderful things here. I'm all about, we need to phenotype autism, or we're not going to get done as much unless we do that. Feeding problems, I'll bet that's Kathleen Piazza. Sleep problems, community participation, and adult transition. We're going to post on Facebook about this conference and encourage you guys to go to this. This is time well spent. You could lose yourself. There's way too much to see and do, but great topics, and they're really, as it says here, a who's who of parent-friendly autism experts. You gotta love that. And we are actually going to have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox in a little while, but we're going to have Dr. Travis Thompson Skyping in with us on Monday. So on Monday, programming notes, we'll do the jargon of the day, and then at 10:30, we're debuting a new cooking segment that we're so lucky that Lisa Ackerman from TACA agreed. And she's such a good cook. Can I just tell you? She had said to me when she was here that her macaroni and cheese, her GFCF macaroni and cheese was going to knock my socks off. And I was like, okay, whatever. I've heard that before, Lisa, and I don't think so. Oh my goodness, it's really good. It's really good. You're really going to love it, and your kids are going to love it. GFCF, and very doable, very easy. It really is amazing. But in any case, Lisa agreed to do some cooking segments for us, and we're going to debut the first segment on Monday at 10:30. You're not going to want to miss that. And right afterwards, we're going to have Dr. Travis Thompson with us talking about this convention and why, if you can, you're going to want to be there. And then in the 11 o'clock hour, we have two amazing young gentlemen who are going to be with us. Alex Plank, who was supposed to be with us last Wednesday, but he's going to spend a lot of time with us next week. And we're really excited about that. Alex is the creator of an amazing website called Wrong Planet, and it's wrongplanet.net, not org, .net. Excuse me. Alex is a brilliant young man who is talented and funny, witty, charming, and he happens to be on the autism spectrum. And he's a brilliant filmmaker, and he created Wrong Planet, and it has become a site where young people with autism and Asperger's congregate and talk to each other. Alex makes the most amazing videos about, how do you flirt and how do you connect with a social group. Just amazing. And we're so thrilled that he's going to be with us on Monday. And he's also going to be with us on Wednesday. But on Monday, he's going to be coming in with a friend of his, Noah, is going to be with us. And they are going to be talking about a film that they've just completed, a documentary about autism in France. And if you think that it's bad here, unbelievably, it's worse there. Absolutely shocking. And the title of the documentary is Shameful. Yeah. And it's very aptly named Shameful. So we're going to be talking with them about that and viewing the trailer. That's all going to be on Monday at 11 o'clock. So very excited about that. Big day on Monday. Cooking segment with Lisa Ackerman at 10:30. Excuse me, Dr. Travis Thompson immediately afterwards, and then at the top of that hour, we'll be joined by Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net and his filmmaking cohort, Noah. I don't know Noah's last name, and I apologize for that, but they will be here on Monday talking about their film, Shameful. All right. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to look at your answers to the question of the day. What do you do? How do you get your child out of a meltdown? How do you get them to calm down afterwards as they're coming out of it? Stick with us. It could be very interesting.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT?
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog, so we're so appreciative of what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're going to look at your answers to the question of the day right now, which was, what does it take to calm your child after a meltdown? And see if you see a running theme in here. I think this is very educational for all of us. One person said love equals hugs if allowed, sitting next to her with a quiet, calm voice, not asking questions, just letting her work through the moment. Another person says hugs. Someone else says, for me to shift into a calm, neutral mode first and foremost. Another person says, Choo Choo Soul on Disney Junior's YouTube channel, LOL. Choo Choo Soul is pretty cool. I like it. Another person says, she likes rocking and loud music. He likes computer time. Interesting. The difference between the two. Another person says time completely alone and using her breathing and centering techniques. Someone else says a deep pressure hug sometimes helps. Again, he likes computer time and she likes cuddling. Isn't this interesting? Another person says a calm, neutral tone, a hug, telling them to focus and breathe, a deep cleansing breath, some computer time or DSI. Someone else says, I like TV, computer, and cuddling, and I don't have autism. I think we all appreciate that, decompress time. Another person who says usually a hard pressure hug. If that doesn't work, then time alone so he can rock/soothe himself along with several deep breaths. Another person says, there's a type of medication, I won't say what the name is, but you can see it on Facebook. For mine, says he doesn't like to do anything else. This is what calms him down. I feel bad giving it to him, but it keeps him from hurting people. Another person says sometimes he has to calm himself. And really, truthfully, that's all of them. They have to calm themselves. Another person says, one of my big dogs. There you go. Someone else says, talking and alone time for my daughter and my son. He likes hugs and to be distracted by something positive, and both are autistic. Someone else says joint compressions, hard hugs, light forehead squeezing to stimulate melatonin production, and cuddling right now. But that is subject to change over time, as it is with all of them. And of course, we're giving your answers to the question, which was, how do you calm your child down after a meltdown? Someone says, for me, staying calm in the end, he plays off my emotions, stay calm. Very interesting. Someone else says, oh, this is interesting. We have a therapeutic cuddle swing that we installed in our living room. She practically lives in it. I don't know what we would do without it. It helps calm her down. Somebody else says hugs, big squeezes. Someone else who says, my son likes to be hugged tight and massaged all over. I usually have to lay with him in the bed. And someone else, massage, deep pressure, sometimes a bath. Someone else who says, I haven't figured it out yet, but you're seeing some running themes here, right? They're not all the same. One child wants loud music, a lot of them want computer, a lot of them want pressure. And someone else says, I'm still like that other person. I'm trying to figure it out too. Oh, somebody else says peanut butter because of the magnesium in it, and a hug. Someone says time. Yes, that's the key, isn't it? Quiet and no questions asked. So no demands put on the child. Very interesting. And someone says, what is a meltdown? Can I possibly have an adult version of this disease? Yes. Yes, you can, and people generally do. I think most adults try to get on an even keel so that they're not having meltdowns, but it's not unreasonable to think that an adult can have a meltdown when things get to such a fever pitch, right? Absolutely, adults have meltdowns, and it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult when it's a child. It's difficult when it's an adult. But again, you know, when we've been talking about tantrums and meltdowns, tantrums are normal, right? All kids are going to have a certain number of tantrums. Stop and consider that if you couldn't get your needs met, and this is really why adults have tantrums and meltdowns too. If you can't get your needs met, if you can't fix what's happening, then eventually people start to yell, and sometimes people throw things. It's not acceptable behavior. We're not saying that it's acceptable behavior, but it is a form of communication. And if somebody starts to stop and think, I mean, we've all probably worked in a work situation, now they call it hostile work environment, where there's somebody who doesn't know how to behave and doesn't know how to communicate to get their needs met, and adults will behave in ways that is not acceptable, right? But what happens and all children will do this, but what happens over time is that if what I needed to get what I wanted, if what I wanted was a drink of water, and I couldn't get up and get the drink of water myself because I didn't have the skills to do it, and and you didn't read my mind, and I had no way to tell you that I wanted a drink of water, eventually I'm going to try a whole host of things, right? And I might even try biting you or throwing something at you to get you to maybe go over to the water cooler. And if at some point you did go to the water cooler, whatever I just did, I would try again and again and again. Because if it got me the water once, I might in the back of my head think, I'm very likely in the back of my head would think, well, it worked once, let me try it again. And if it worked twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, how likely would I be to find another way to get the water unless someone forced me to? right? This is our kids. They're new to the planet. They don't have communication skills, and they have things that they need. I need to be held. I need to be rocked. I need to have my pants changed. I need you to feed me. I need you to take something off of me because I'm hot. I need you to put something on me because I'm cold, right? Those are the basic things that our children come into the planet with. And what do they do to let us know that they need those things? They cry. And we do something about it. Now, is that wrong? No. No. But at some point, there's that shift, right? Where the kids have to start to find other ways than crying. And for some kids that, they make that leap relatively quickly. Everybody goes through something. They call it the terrible twos, but some kids go through it when they're 1. Some kids go through it when they're 3. And some kids don't get out of it unless we find a better way to teach them. And we can find a better way to teach them. But if you've tried everything you can think of to get your needs met and they're still not getting met, we start to crash, right? Blood sugar crashes, sensory-wise we're crashing, everything becomes overwhelming, and then we get into a meltdown. And generally with our kids on the autism spectrum, we like to think as parents, if we're having tantrums, we want to figure out what the cause of that is. But if we're having meltdowns, we also want to look for what the cause of the tantrum that started it, but we also want to look for environmental reasons why a meltdown is happening. Kids meltdown when they haven't had enough to eat, or if they've had something that they're having a mild allergic reaction to, or something they're having a severe allergic reaction. Kids and adults, by the way, meltdown when they haven't had enough to eat. When blood sugar fluctuates, that's prime ground for a meltdown for an adult or a child. On the spectrum, off the spectrum, doesn't matter. How about too little sleep? How about wearing clothes that don't fit properly or scratch or don't feel right, right? It can cause a meltdown in anyone. So, my thing is always, tantrums, we want to get some help, look for what's the function of the behavior. We make sure we're not rewarding it, giving into it, and making sure that it happens more often, right? That would be a bad choice. But for meltdowns, we want to look at what's happening all around. Is there a flickering light that's making this child not be able to cope as well as they might have otherwise? Have they had something to drink? Have they had rest? Do they have something happening physically? Do they have a stomachache? Do they have a headache? These are the kinds of things that can set you up for a meltdown no matter who you are. But I love this list of things, you guys, and a lot of them were about pressure. And a lot of them were about having quiet time where demands weren't made on them. Very, very interesting. All right, we have to take a little bit of a break here, and we want to show you the A word. And when we come back from the A word, we are going to be joined by the fabulous Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who's going to be talking with us about research and answering your questions. Now is a great time to put forth your questions for Dr. Tarbox. Stick with us.
Hi, Jack Riley. Are you in the pool? Say hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
He said that twice. We're just getting the camera.
Hi, Suzanne.
How's everything?
Everything is good. We just actually increased our hours, so that's a little overwhelming. It includes pretty much therapy from 8:30 till about
6 p.m.
6 o'clock minus his nap time. So that's challenging, but he's doing great. 6 months ago he had 0 words. Now I don't think I can count that high. He's got so many words.
And the 25 hours, so is that strictly ABA or is that ABA plus?
That's ABA plus 2 hours of speech therapy per week plus 2 hours of OT per week.
So it's almost 30 hours, 29 hours.
He works almost more than we do.
So let's say that's like as long as my work week.
Yeah, he's got a full-time job for
a 2-year-old.
A little 2-year-old with a full-time job.
Wow. Oh, a mouth. Where does the mouth go? Oh, nice job. So he has hands, eyes, nose, and a mouth. What else does he need? Does he need ears? Oh, there's one ear. What else does he need? Shoes. Where is his shoes? You're gonna put feet? Okay. What else does he need? Oh, a hat. Which hat is he gonna put on? That one? Say hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Jack Riley.
We were diagnosed November of last year, so it's been 7 months since we've known that he has autism. He started speech therapy a month later, occupational therapy probably within a few weeks of that, and then ABA we've done for 3 months, April, May, and June.
Right.
And really, I think ABA, I don't want to compare it to the others, but I mean, we've seen a huge impact on him. And
It's 20 some odd hours,
right.
compared to 2 and 4 or whatever. But yeah, he's changed dramatically since ABA started.
And it was hard in the beginning. We just even the biggest example I always come up with is they made him say his colors before he could use a marker to color, which was his thing at the time.
Do you want green or orange? Which one's orange? Green or orange? Orange, yeah. Good job.
So what's like the differences between before you started therapy and to what the kind of kid he is now?
I actually have not full days, but very large portions of partial days where I forget about autism and just think I have a 2-year-old. Specifically, he plays with us. He engages us. He's funny. He sort of makes jokes. I don't know how to explain that, but he does.
Oh, you got it.
The communication skills have increased dramatically, where we were impressed with how he could label everything under the sun
and mimic, and now he's actually asking for things. He's making requests. He wants help, and sometimes he'll say specifically, help open. That would have been unheard of a few months ago.
Open. Hope.
What?
I don't remember this fascination with learning quite so much as the last few months.
Right.
And everything that he knows, he's always looking at us like, did you catch that I knew that? Did you see that I knew that was coming?
Are you hip to this?
Well, now it's gone. He's got it. Look at you being Mr. Trying to figure things out there.
I know.
That's cute. And then now it's there.
Now it's there. You see it?
That's hilarious.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
How do you differentiate or like try to figure out like what is the autism, what is his personality, what is
we don't understand at all, really, and I think really we won't understand fully unless we have a neurotypical child second. And I think as we go through stages, it'll bells will be ringing left and right. We'll be like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, actually, I still have trouble explaining it to friends or family when they ask, well, how do you know? I still have trouble explaining it. I know that we're right and that he's not misdiagnosed, but I still have trouble explaining it.
We look at each other all the time and say, is that 2 or is that autism? And I don't know that we ever answer it.
Probably our most common question to each other. Is that autism or is that 2-year-old? I don't know.
And I have both is probably what we usually say.
Yeah.
It's a little of both.
Yeah.
Bobby.
What? Baby.
Bobby.
Baby.
Bobby.
Mommy or baby? I don't know.
Bobby.
Mommy. Baby.
Mommy.
Baby. Baby.
Baba. Baby.
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 Is he a baby too?
I'm not a baby.
Baby.
How does that affect everything now that you're pregnant waiting for sister? Were you nervous when you first found out you guys were pregnant?
Well, yeah, we thought about it. I thought I would be more nervous about it all, but as I told a woman within probably less than a week of getting Jack's diagnosis, because we were already thinking about having another baby at that time, and asked her very honestly, are we crazy? Is this just a bad time to bring in another? Is this not fair to our son? Do we need to focus on him? And she led me through a few questions, and the ultimate thing I said was, I'll take 5 more just like him. And I would, in a heartbeat. He's great. He's
maybe not 5.
I'll take 5 more just like him.
Okay.
You're happy with just 2.
I'm happy with 2.
No, he's a happy kid. Hasn't made him any less of a treat to watch him grow up and to watch him learn. He still is doing all those things. He might be doing them on a different timetable, but we haven't missed out.
But we don't know the
anything.
timetable anyway, so we're good. We're golden.
Ignorance is bliss.
He's great. He's great, and now we feel like we're on the right track. So you know, I don't care what his timetable is. He's learning daily.
But I think that's the impression, you know, as a parent for sure. Before you experience autism, you think of it as sort of, you know, that everything's different.
Yeah.
And it is, but in a way it's not at all, you know.
Yeah.
They're still kids, and they're still fun, and
I could still see him being like king of the prom.
Sure.
He's a looker, good looking guy.
He's charmed all his therapists.
And his cinematographer. and his mom and dad. We're going to the pool. We're going to the pool. We're gonna put our swimming suits on and we're going swimming. We're going to the pool.
Yay!
We're going to the pool.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
My excitement's getting stronger.
We're going to the pool. We're going to the pool.
Yay!
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so thrilled that I'm back in the studio here with the fabulous Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. Have to start by saying thank you so much for filling in for me on Wednesday.
It was a joy. It was really fun.
It was. I said my husband and I sat there and watched it, and we had so many things to do, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And if you guys missed it, the Ask Dr. Doreen segment on Wednesday, Dr. Tarbox hosted it, and it was brilliant. If you didn't have so many other things that your time was better put to use, I would be out of a job, and rightfully so.
Ridiculous.
No, it was wonderful. It was absolutely fabulous, and I hung on your every word. So thank you.
It was really fun. So
isn't it fun to you know, get to sit here and
Shannon is cool.
Well, you were Shannon with like a whole lot of knowledge that Shannon doesn't have. So really fabulous, wonderful, and so great to have you back. And we keep promising you Dr. Tarbox, and then I kept leaving, but we're back, and he's here, and it's wonderful. I want to start by talking. There was an announcement that was made about a week and a half ago that there's some new research that you guys are going to be doing in conjunction with skills, and it really captured my interest. I don't know that I completely understand it, so can you fill us in a little about what's happening?
Sure, yeah. First of all, it's not research, actually. It's just a clinical partnership.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is we're partnering with a genetic testing company called Lineagen, and they offer what we believe is one of the most comprehensive genetic tests available for autism and other developmental disabilities. And so part of the sort of gold standard recommendation for assessment and care for a child who might be on the spectrum is genetic testing, and so that is kind of recommended by the you know, the mainstream medical establishment. Is if you suspect your child might have developmental disorder, go and get the best genetic testing you can. It's not the, you know, the end all be all. It's not really a diagnosis yet, but it's basically just another piece of the puzzle. And there are actually a lot of other disorders that are what we call comorbid, meaning co-occurring with autism that can be detected genetically. For example, Fragile X syndrome, and there's a whole host of other ones. And so basically it's just more information that you can get about your child. And so what we're doing is we're partnering with Lineagen, and basically what's in it for them is they want to know more about these kids, and so they're interested in how these kids are learning. They're interested in further developing their test to help identify different subtypes of autism. So, for example, we know if you've met one kid with autism, you've met one kid with autism, right? So there's many different subtypes or phenotypes, we believe, within autism spectrum disorders, and they and we want to know more about those, because we all have these hunches, right? Like the visual kids, or the sensory kids, or the, you know, the kids who are really rapid learners, the kids who are a little more challenged and learn at a slower pace, kids who really are afraid of, let's say, loud noises and bright lights and things like that, right? So there seem to be so many different subgroups within autism spectrum disorders that they're interested in identifying those subgroups, and so are we, and frankly, so is the whole scientific community within autism.
They better be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they are. That's a major stated a goal of the National Institutes of Health too, in funding research, is to try to identify the subgroups or phenotypes within autism. So basically, what's happening is we're putting together clinical partnership, so we'll basically share data with each other. Okay, so we can get some genetic data from them. They can get skills data from kids who have a skills account to learn more about how these kids learn.
So there's a lot there. I got a bunch of questions.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so starting with, so if you're a parent and you've got a skills account, and I love skills, my son, I've got a skills account and we use it. And I know, because people are going to say, well, does this mean that my child's private information is out there, and that, you know, and we always talk about the fact that your personal privacy is paramount, and I see that on a regular basis. So how does it make sure that the information that's transferred doesn't come back to the child, to that company?
Right, right. Well, it's completely up to the parents. And so if the parents sign a form saying, yes, I allow Lineagen to have access to my child's skills data, then we give those data to Lineagen. If the parent doesn't want to sign the form, no problem.
Okay, so you have the choice. But even when the data goes, it goes under like a number instead of your child's, doesn't it? It's like masked so that they never actually have the child's.
It wouldn't be identifiable that it's the child. Yeah.
Okay, but you get the choice, because I know some people, you know, we're all protective of our kids and their information, and so really important. But also, what an amazing thing. I don't know about you guys, but when our child was diagnosed, I said, I want to do everything that we can for our child, but I want to do everything that we can to make sure that it helps somebody else too. So if we get one step further, it was very evident to me that a whole bunch of people had come before us and done a lot of hard work that we benefited from.
That's right.
And if those people had decided to be, you know, we're not going to tell, I don't know where we would have been.
Right, that's true. And, you know, frankly, and again, this is not research, this is just a clinical data sharing partnership, but it's really true. I mean, if it wasn't for research, none of us would be here. I mean, ABA would not be getting funded, right? You know, so, and in the future, what we're hoping to identify, and this, I could talk about this topic forever, but
I could too.
But what if there was, let's say, like a genetic test that would point out to you, like, oh, okay, this is one of these kids that's going to need 40 hours a week, you know, starting at the age of 1.5, but he's within this group where they're going to be completely done after only a year or two of treatment if you really hit it hard and you really do it early. Whereas maybe a different profile would tell you, okay, this kid is very, very likely to never develop vocal speech. That is one of the subtypes of autism, even with the best possible treatment. So right early on, you know, in day one, you better start working on sign language, PECs, VOCA, whatever it's going to be. So some non-vocal form of communication. Not ever giving up on speech. It wouldn't be a death sentence for vocal speech, but it would just be an area of emphasis that says, hey, look, you need to really focus on this from the very beginning. And you know, this is actually happening now in other areas of medical treatment, and I'm no expert, but apparently for breast cancer, your genetic profile actually allows them to custom tailor your breast cancer treatment to improve survival rates. So we're, you know, eventually, maybe 50 years down the road, we think that it's possible that ABA could get there too, that sharing information between ABA and genetics and any other field of medicine, frankly, will make the overall treatment more successful and more custom tailored.
It really, the first time that I heard somebody talking about phenotyping autism, it was like the lights went on and I went, oh my gosh, because I know as a parent that whenever I go to something and I meet other parents, I ask questions about their kids, and it's fascinating to me because all of our kids are different, but you meet somebody whose child, you go, oh, my kid did that. What did you do for that? And you want to, because who wants to reinvent the wheel?
Absolutely.
You want to save time. We always talk about being effective and being efficient, and you know, it's what parent support groups do, but if we can get to that fabulous place where someday it's a test and we know this is exactly what we're looking at and we know exactly what works for this, and that's possible, I think.
We believe that that's possible, but who knows, you know, but you'll never know if you don't try. So that's why basically our philosophy at Card behind skills is we want every single piece of information we can possibly think of that might be relevant for every kid in the same database where all of the information on that child's learning is stored. And we believe, it's just our basic philosophy, we believe we'll be able to advance the understanding of autism if we have all the data in one place. So that was one of the major reasons why we even created Skills. In addition to providing the best curriculum and assessment available for clinical use, it was also just to learn more about autism and to just try to put all the relevant information in one place.
Yeah, and I do think that if we can be helping our kids, and in the meantime taking data so that we know how to better help our child, and potentially being able to help thousands, if not millions of other children, I get excited about that. And again, no private information about your child is shared with anyone, so it's entirely safe to do that. Now let's get back to talking about the actual genetic testing, because I don't know that I knew that that was considered gold standard, that you should get genetic testing. When all those years ago, when my son was diagnosed, we were asked, did we care, did we want to do a Fragile X? And we did, and we're told no, that didn't come back. But I don't know, now I'm wondering if when we did the Fragile X, whether they looked for other things. Is this a relatively new thing that it's gold standard?
Personally, I'm not an expert in genetic testing, but it may be a relatively new thing. And of course, every year the tests are improving and becoming more comprehensive. And so actually, the nice thing about this is Lineagen employs licensed genetic counselors, and the whole point of that career position is to talk to people about genetic testing and whether it meets with their values and whether it's important to the patient or not. So the first step, if someone wants to be part of this partnership, is they contact Lineagen and they just have a chat with a genetic counselor on the phone. And they just talk to them and see if they're comfortable with it, see if it's something that matters to them. You know, frankly, some families say, well, I already know my kid has autism and it's not going to change his ABA treatment today, so I don't want it. Fine, no problem. It's not right for them. Other parents say, you know what, I just want to know. I want to know every piece of information I can. Even, even if it doesn't make any difference tomorrow, I just want to know.
Because it may make a difference sometime down the road.
Maybe it could, and especially for a particularly young child, there's certain genetic disorders that come with a very high likelihood of particular behavioral challenges that you'll still have to treat behaviorally anyways, But if you know that that's a much higher likelihood of occurring, then at least it gives you a red flag to kind of look out for it. So for example, Lesch-Nyhan syndrome is associated with extremely severe self-injurious behavior. So if you know my child has Lesch-Nyhan, you're going to be on the lookout for self-injury from the very beginning. Prader-Willi syndrome is associated with extreme hunger. And so these kids will just steal food constantly because they're desperately starving constantly. So it's associated with aggression around food stealing, understandably, lots of weight gain, and families end up having to actually put padlocks on the fridge and on the cupboards. So it's interesting. These are fairly rare things, It's not likely that your child has that, but, and maybe you'd already know by now if they did. But just examples of,
things to rule out.
Things to rule out.
Okay, and so you started answering my next question, which is, how does this happen? If you're a Skills user, then you'll get a notification with a number to call if you want to, if you choose to?
Yeah, you might get an email or a call from somebody at Card, and or you can contact Lineagen directly and just tell them, hey, I'm a Card person, and I heard about your clinical partnership, and then they just get you started.
And they'll start with the genetic testing, or the genetic
counseling.
Thank you.
And then what they do is they look into your medical insurance, so they do a full medical insurance investigation to see if your medical insurance covers it. And if it does, then that's good. But they'll be honest with you up front. They actually do a much more thorough medical insurance investigation than any doctor. Like if you go to the doctor's office, they don't spend an hour on the phone with your insurance company before they treat you. They just treat you and bill you. So the nice thing about that, they'll do the full medical insurance investigation, and they don't bill you until they've told you how much it's going to cost you, and you say yes.
Fabulous.
So that's nice.
Yes.
And so and the insurance coverage is actually pretty good. And also for folks, for Card clients that are part of this partnership, they've agreed to do a reduced copay also, which is kind of nice.
Very cool. I'm very interested in doing it for Jem. I think that's something that
it's a thought.
Information is information. Can't hurt.
The other nice thing is, in the old days, a lot of genetic testing required blood draws, which is no fun, right? This is just a swab. It's a little, like a Q-tip swab in your mouth, basically. Stick it in a little plastic thing and mail it off, and you're done.
Lovely.
So it's
not
of
a
cake.
stick.
No.
Okay.
It's totally non-intrusive. It's really easy to do. Anyone can do it.
Okay.
You know.
Swell.
Yeah, and it does need to be ordered by your pediatrician. So Lineagen will talk to you about that. And so what you would do is contact your pediatrician, and they do need to approve it or order it.
Right.
In order for medical insurance to cover it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a fascinating thing, and I can't wait to hear information, about what happens down the road as a result of this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, who knows? It's one of those things like any exploratory science, you really don't know. It could be the holy grail that you discover. It could revolutionize. It could be a Nobel Prize practically, or it could be nothing.
Right.
So.
But it's not hurting your child, and for me, that's always my thing. We're all doing no harm first, and so more information when it's not hurting the child is, as far as I can see, only a wonderful thing. I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this, and I'm excited about it. And for all of you watching, I don't know about you, but I want to be there on the day when they figure this out. I want to when they figure out how they're going to be able to help our individual kids, and I hope that my child's journey adds to whatever figured it out. Isn't that something that we'd all like to feel like, okay, we went through this together and we were a part of making it so that nobody ever has to do this the way we did again. I could really get behind that.
Imagine how the parents of the kids in the original Lovas 87 paper must feel that they participated in this historic event that changed autism treatment forever. I have seen, I wish we could show it on the show, that piece of tape. I don't know if you've seen it, where they went back all the years later and they interviewed 3 of the kids from the original Lovas. I didn't see it.
And it's fascinating because they interview them with friends, so they don't disclose because they protect their identity greatly. But there's one case where it's 2 younger boys, and they're like 10, 11 years old, sitting there talking to each other on a park bench, and you can't figure out which one of them was completely neurotypical from birth and which one went through the Lovas experiment. And then there's one where it's 3 boys that are older, and they're like 17 years old, and they're playing pool together, and you can't figure out, and the child does the voiceover, and you're trying to figure out which kid is it, and you can't tell.
That's pretty cool.
It's just amazing. And then they also interview one of the other kids who wasn't in the recovery set, but made progress.
That's great.
To
I'm glad
see
they didn't
how,
leave them out.
and actually he was in the group that made the least progress, but to show and interviewed his mom about how different his life was.
Absolutely. And it's so important when we talk about recovery to not leave out those folks too, the kids who are not going to recover but still make real serious progress. Maybe their IQ score doesn't change, but they've learned a bunch of great skills that can make them more independent and happier in their life. Yeah,
and when you see his mom talk about how different their life is now than when they started the Lovas experiment, and you know that that's the group that everybody argues and says, well, they didn't make much progress, and you hear her talk and you go, I'm sorry, no. He is toilet trained, and he holds a job,
we can go to a
and
restaurant,
he sets the
eat a
table,
meal.
and he's not hurting himself or anybody else, and he's just a love. Hello.
Yeah.
That's some real progress.
That's huge, yeah.
It is huge. Parents get it. Parents absolutely get it. In any case, we're going to talk more with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox about this event that he has coming up that we talked a little bit about in the last hour that I'm really excited about. So stick with us. We're going to take a short break and be right back.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do. understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Friday, and we are so thrilled to have to be back on a Friday and to have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox here with us.
Great to be here.
You are the Director of Research and Development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and you are also
Executive Director of Autism Research Group,
which is an amazing organization. You do research for things that matter to families, and families can tell you the kinds of things they'd like to have researched, correct?
Correct, yes.
And where can they go if they want to do one of your surveys or put in a request?
www.autismresearchgroup.org. And we still have our parent survey open. And basically the idea is you take the survey and we literally ask you what kind of research matters to you as a parent or a family member of someone on the spectrum. And we use that to basically form the pool of ideas from which we then create new research protocols.
Great. So if you've been sitting there and saying, why don't they ask me what they should be researching? They are. You just have to...
We also ask, one of the questions is, what annoys you the most about autism research? Because we want to know what people really don't like. You know,
right.
what's
That's
bugging
great.
them.
The
So
flip
make sure
side
we
of
stay
it.
away from that.
Which is fabulous. But you are, we just were speaking in the last hour about this event that's coming up, ABAI, it's the Autism Conference.
Correct.
January 25th through the 27th in Portland, Oregon, and you will be speaking there.
Yeah, and actually it's really cool because it's the annual convention that the Association for Behavior Analysis International holds on the topic of autism, different city each year. And what's neat about it is there's different tracks on different days, and so there's a whole day of presentations geared specifically to parents.
Yeah.
In the past, you know, they sort of thought, well, is it professionals? Is it for parents? Is it for researchers or clinicians? And so now there's different tracks, so it's great. I'm speaking on Friday. No, that's not correct. I'm speaking on Saturday, and that's the science track, so for scientists. Sunday is the parent track, and Dr. Travis Thompson, who we were talking about earlier, he's presenting in the morning on the Sunday on the parent track. So
wonderful. So, and I especially want to let those of you who are watching know that as a parent, if you're looking for a conference to go to, this is a great conference to go to. We had the opportunity last May to go to Autism Live, went to the big ABAI annual convention that was for everything. So it wasn't all about autism. There were people there who were presenting ideas about ABA in the business setting, and you know, for athletes and every subject under the sun.
Everything you can think of.
Yeah, and that was fascinating. And I found that really, really exciting, but it was a little overwhelming. It was so huge. And even the autism track of it was so huge that we couldn't get to probably even, I think we got to maybe a third of the things that were there, and we were having to run to catch a snippet here. I said it's like Disneyland for an autism parent, and yet a lot of autism parents don't attend.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, like the main audience for that conference is professionals and researchers, so there isn't a lot of content tailored specifically for parents, although that's developing now more. But that's what's exciting about this particular one, this autism conference, is that there's a track of presentations specifically for parents. And what's nice about this is every single thing that you see presented there, that a presenter says, here, look at this, has been researched. None of it is just someone's great idea that may or may not actually work. All of it has been subjected to really good scientific research published in peer-reviewed journals, so you know that it works. It's not just, you know, flavor of the week type stuff.
And it's pretty fascinating, I have to say. I mean, you know this about me, that I am not a scientific mind, and that I kind of balk at anything that's scientific. I'm like, oh, stand back with that. Don't come too close to me with that. But as a parent, you know, the sort of encapsulated moment of ABI, and this happened like times 7,000. But there were two women that I had the opportunity to talk to that what they had done research on was shoe tying. And their thing was, they said, well, we looked at how they were getting shoe tying done, teaching a child on the autism spectrum, and conventional wisdom said it was 11 steps, or however many steps. I'm making it up, right? But we looked at it, and it was this many steps, and we thought, is there a way that we can do this faster, with fewer steps, in fewer trials, that we can get this job done faster? And that's exciting to me as a parent.
Yeah, because it's both science geeky, but also practical, and produces a meaningful outcome. Yeah.
And they did. And they found a way that they could shave it down to a certain number of steps, and they demoed it for us and showed us the data, and I actually was interested in the data, that they had 3 young guys on the spectrum that they were able to teach them shoe tying and that many fewer trials, and as a parent, I went, woohoo!
Great.
This is exciting. But that was happening all over 3 city blocks with every skill imaginable. People, like, how do you teach your child to make friends? How do you get your child to do perspective taking? That you guys, this is what you do.
That's what we do, day in and day out. Yeah.
And on a certain level, it's deeply fascinating.
I think so. That's why I'm in this field. But yeah.
And so, what a wonderful opportunity. What is your topic that you're going to be presenting on?
My topic is recent research on teaching perspective taking and executive function skills. So we and some other colleagues at some other universities have been doing research on a variety of topics. Basically, what we've been doing over the last few years is taking one particular perspective taking skill or one particular executive function skill and saying, a skill that most of the world believes is a brain function. So either you have it or you don't. And if you have autism and you can't do this skill, well, it must be because your brain is messed up in some way. Well, of course, in ABA, we don't buy that. If it's something that a person does, it involves behavior. And behavior is learned, therefore it can be taught, right? That's the basic rationale. So we've been picking one particular skill here and there and saying, I'll bet we could teach that. Let's try it, right? And clinicians at CARD have been doing this for a very long time. And so what you'll find is, actually at organizations that were started by previous Cardians who were trained and learned here and then went and started their own organization, you're seeing they're doing it too. So it actually is starting to spread around the country, which is exciting. So it's teaching stuff like, we've done a study on teaching, just published one actually, on teaching kids to detect when others are lying to them, to exclude them, or to take their stuff. We did a study actually teaching kids to tell socially appropriate white lies to other people, right? So that they're not rude. So if someone gives you a present that you hate, you smile and say thank you instead of saying, this sucks, I hate it.
Right, exactly.
We did a study teaching kids to identify what other people are sensing and how it's different from what they're sensing. So what I see is behind you and you can't see it. What you see is behind me and I can't see it, right? And you actually need to be aware of that in social conversation. Otherwise, you'll say things that don't make sense. Like when you're talking to your grandmother on the phone and you say, look at this cool new toy I got, right? Well, grandma can't see it, so maybe you need to explain what the toy looks like,
exactly.
So we've been doing a variety of different things. A few studies on improving working memory. One on teaching kids to attend to relevant social stimuli. So if there's a lot of different things happening right now, but then something changes socially, like someone drops something or someone says, ow, we're teaching the kids, hey, look over at it and check in with the person. So say, are you okay? Or what happened? Or do you need help? Or something like that. So a variety of different skills that people think of as sort of cognitive abilities, but it turns out they're actually teachable. So I'm basically just going to summarize the work that we and some other folks have been publishing in these areas.
And so I think you kind of alluded to it, and I think I know the answer, but you successfully were able to teach all these things. And, and the children generalized, and so they can do these in a wide variety of settings. And because I always think it goes without saying, and then I'm reminded on a daily basis it doesn't. This works.
Right, exactly.
That we need to keep telling people this is what works.
It actually works, right. And the cool thing about it is, I mean, it's just built into the ABA philosophy of the world is if it doesn't work, it's because we're not doing something right. Because you don't blame it on the kid or the diagnosis. So when a procedure doesn't work, then we change the procedure until it does work, right? And that evidence of it working is the evidence that is the goal of our treatment. We don't, you know what I mean? It's not to just help the kid, it's to produce a measurable outcome. That the kid's life is better because he can do X. So yeah, that's built into all of these studies. And actually, the research designs we're using are ones where you're not done with the study until you've demonstrated generalization and demonstrated the ability of the child to actually apply the skill to a large variety of things. So for example, we taught, one study, we taught kids to understand metaphors. So metaphorical language is pretty weird, right? Because when you call something something other than what it really is. So you know, some guy who's a really strong runner, you might say, man, he's a monster. Well, no, he's a human, right? So some of these kids are overly literal literal. They go, no, he's not a monster. He's a human.
Right.
That's wrong, right? And so we taught that ability through lots of practice across lots of different metaphors.
Yeah.
But the key is not learning the meaning of a particular metaphor. Who cares about that, right? That's just memorization. The key is demonstrating now that the kid can hear a new metaphor that he's never heard before and figure out the meaning of it across, pretty much any metaphor that someone will use. And so,
or make a metaphor themselves.
Well, and they did. They started to make their own metaphors, which was very cool.
Well, I think I came in after you talked about it on the show that week. I came in the next week and I was so excited. I almost called you because my son had done that, and because he went through a lot of obviously he went through lessons that are included in the CARD curriculum, and he that day that you had been on the show talking about that, my son had said to me we were going to go home, and he said I said, what do you want to do this afternoon? He said, I want to lay on the couch like a fat man in a bed. and I was so excited. I was like, what? He just made this up. Where'd you get that? And he said, well, because a fat man on a bed is lazy, and that's how,
perfect.
Great.
It's great.
Brilliant.
One of the kids in this study, the metaphor study, maybe a month after he was done with the study, he's included in regular education class with an aide. The teacher handed out worksheets, and it was metaphor day, and so they're actually going to start teaching kids about different types of linguistics, and metaphors was the topic of the day. So they handed out the worksheet. He was actually the first one to finish the worksheet with no errors.
Awesome.
Isn't that great?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was like real life generalization test.
Yeah. And I like I said, I just can't say it enough that. And I'm going to keep saying it, is this works. This works. This is part of the reason why we both have our ribbons on today.
That's right.
And I love, you're great in the commercial that they made. And there's a great picture of you. You're now like the poster person for, there's a great picture of you on Facebook. I had it on Facebook, on my personal Facebook. It's great, and it's adorable, and everybody loved it. But the reason why for the ribbons, if you've missed this, is that everybody's been working for a long time for more kids to get ABA, because and we've talked earlier about funding, as those of you who are watching at home, that there are people who are still excluded from this because of cost and proximity, and we can't have that. We need to move towards, and I know that we don't have that all across the globe yet, but each thing as it comes, right? And we need to start here. We need to set the example here, and if we set the example and make this playing field level so that more kids get this, then other people will, if nothing else, be shamed into it, I believe.
I hope.
And parents will rise up and say enough. But in any case, everybody was working really hard towards that end, and we thought we'd made great progress. And the Affordable Health Care Act, which is now widely called Obamacare, we thought that, and many people went to the Hill and lobbied for behavioral health to be included as one of the essential 10 essential health benefits. And it is there. It was fought for, and Congress understood that was so that children with autism could finally get the help that they needed. There are a lot of people who are on the Hill who have children in their family or close loved ones, and they understood. They heard our cry, and the cry was loud. And then it went to Kathleen Sebelius, who is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and for whatever reason, I'm not clear on why, she decided to abdicate her right to define behavioral health clearly to the individual states. And we have now a problem where some of the states are saying, yeah, behavioral health includes ABA and doing the right thing. And thank heavens in California that's the way they're viewing it. But there are many states that are saying, no, we don't necessarily see it that way. That's ignorant. It's not useful to us. We need to fix that. And even if, I'm in a state where we have that, but I can't abide by that. This needs to be in all the states.
And the important thing to point out too is it's not just for ABA.
That's true.
Any other behavioral health treatment that's evidence-based would be covered too. So this is not an ABA petition. This is a scientifically proven autism treatment petition, right? So, and there are other treatments that are being researched, and there may well. So it's not just a matter of ABA.
It isn't, and in fact, some of the other 10 essential health benefits, other people are having with other issues are having difficulties because they're being defined by the states as well. So it isn't even just about behavioral health, but we need for the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius, to take back that power. That's the easiest thing to do, for her to do what with the power, to use the power that was given to her to do what was intended with the legislation, and to take that power, do the right thing, and define behavioral health as ABA, and in particular ABA for autism. And we have a wonderful person here, who Suzanne Oshinsky, who came up with the idea of an infinity ribbon, because with ABA the possibilities are infinite.
That's right.
They really are. And it's important that we all get behind that and start wearing our ribbons, but first and foremost, sign that petition and let your voice be heard. Take a look at it.
It literally takes 30 seconds to sign.
It really does.
It's a piece of cake.
And we were very careful in the language that there is nothing political about this issue. It is not a left or a right.
That's a really important thing to point out. Yeah.
And I know that there were some other petitions out there, and we wanted to be very succinct and very careful. No political affiliation here whatsoever. It's about doing the right thing. It's about doing the intent of what was put forward. Clearly, everyone, there are senators who have written letters asking for Kathleen Sebelius to do this because it was their intent when they passed legislation that she do this. So it just is the right thing. And we encourage you guys to please get your ribbons. Get your ribbons on and sign that petition. And we both signed it. Yes,
absolutely,
you signed it.
of course,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So check it out on Facebook. It is on our Facebook page, and I believe it is now on our website as well. If you go to the bottom of our website, there is a ribbon, an infinity ribbon there that you can click that will take you right to the petition. And we're asking, begging, and pleading for you to please do that and make ABA something that's available to more children. We have to go in that direction. You have seen this. I mean, I've seen it in my home. It's personal to me, but you have seen it in countless homes.
Everywhere, yeah. And there's still many states in the country where there's virtually no access to treatment, and it's largely because of funding. And so, you know, medical insurance funding for and again, it's ABA, yeah, is the proven treatment now, but any evidence-based treatment is just critical. I mean, it's just plain old discrimination to not cover autism.
It's unconscionable.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
It's unconscionable. And when I think about it over the years, when I've thought about it, and once we realized, once we knew that ABA, we knew the science was there, and we started ABA for our child and saw the difference. I've said it before, we refer to it as the autism miracle in our living room. It was amazing. It became a thing where I thought, how is it that they are not allowing all of our kids to have this? It's just not right. If this were cancer, this would not be allowed.
Exactly. Right.
It just, no one would stand for it. And we cannot afford to lose a generation of kids that we don't have to lose. So encourage everyone. You have to send it to your friends, your Facebook family, and say, you know, you wanted to do something for me, do this for me. It takes you 30 seconds. Step it up.
There you go.
We're out of time, but I just want to say to you, thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
And working with our kids. We're going to look forward to hearing about what happens, your talk at ABAI, and what happens with this clinical partnership that you're doing with Skills. And I hope that it brings something back of big use for all of us. I feel good about it.
Me too. It's exciting.
It's a wonderful thing. But thank you so much, and we won't see you until after the holidays, so please have very happy holidays.
You too.
And but we'll check back with you from time to time.
Sounds good.
All right. We're going to take a short break and be back to finish out the show. Stick with us.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your student's assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provide you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
Welcome back. It's and I didn't full screen this, so I'm going to do it right now. We've been talking today about tantrums and meltdowns occasionally, and I should have kept Dr. Tarbox in to talk about this, but wanted to leave you with this weekend because we're moving into high gear holidays, right? And our kids are going to engage in some behavior that we're not going to be thrilled with, whether we're going to call it challenging or not. We're going to have a hard time, and very likely we're going to see some tantrums during this time period. And it won't be just the kids, too. I don't know. There will be some adult tantrums, too. Hopefully not us, right? But let's remember a couple of things about tantrums, and we've done a little sheet here for you. Tantrums serve a purpose. A lot of times we talk about our 4 usual suspects about why certain behaviors happen, and this goes a little bit hand in hand. But remember that one of the big things about why children engage in tantrums is to get attention. And I know that this is a toughie because we all think, oh, but then the child gets some kind of consequence that's negative. So, you know, they get a timeout, or they get this, or the toy is taken away, or whatever it is. So it can't be that, right? Except that if the child is wanting attention, it does not matter whether the attention is good, bad, or what, because there is no such thing as bad attention when you're desperate for attention, right? Even the talking to, as you put them in a corner corner because you think that that's going to work. If you're putting the child in the corner and isolating them, the talking to on the way to the corner is reinforcing enough. So really important that we begin to delineate using that FBA, getting an expert in there, our jargon for the day, to figure out what the function of the behavior is. Because if it's attention, we got to be really careful how we go about dealing with this tantrum. It's going to feel counterintuitive, but there's some different things that are really effective when it's tension. To get out of doing something, that's another big one. Or to get out of going someplace or being with someone. We call it escape, right? That's a big reason why kids tantrum. There was something that I was taking my son to do the other day, and he did not want to do it, and I was so focused on what I was doing and going through what I was doing that I was paying him no never mind, as a friend of mine says, wasn't paying any never mind. And my child was trying to communicate with me, but I was having a crisis and I was not listening, and he did not want to go where we were going. And so he laid down on the floor. He's learned from his mother, because I have done that a time or two. So he laid down on the floor. We didn't get into full tantrum, right? But it was like Gandhi. He was doing civil disobedience. I am not going. And now you have to listen to me because I am not going there and I have a reason why. Our kids will do that. And maybe they're not as progressed to be able to say, I'm laying down until you listen to me. Instead, they'll kick and scream and bite and do whatever, right? That's what he used to do instead of saying, you're not listening to me, so I'm going to lay down. Really important that there are specific things that we want to do if it is being maintained by wanting to get out of something, that escape maintain, to get something they want, access to a tangible or a person. This includes gaining control over another person or situation and gaining access to rituals or routines. So if the child is wanting to line things up and we say, it's not happening, and we have a tantrum, it's because they wanted access to that. There was something about lining those toys up that was a paycheck for them and they wanted. It serves a purpose. The tantrum, then maybe they get to line it up again. And then of course, all of it is offering protest or frustration, letting people know, I don't like the way this is going. And we want to have control over things. Why would we think that our kids don't want to have control over things? So as your child tantrums over the weekend, and I hope it doesn't happen, but you know it might, start to ask yourself, is this why? Are any of these things, is it even a possibility? Of course, I always encourage you to, if it's happening frequently, and you know in your heart if it's happening too frequently, right? Get a BCBA on the job. Somebody who's experienced with autism, who ask them, how are you dealing with this behavior, whatever it is that you're doing. This is my international symbol for phone. Call them on the phone and say, are you experienced, my child is biting, and I want to know, have you worked with a child with autism who bites before? It's not an unreasonable question to ask if you're going to pay them some money to come and look at it, right? You would ask your mechanic, you look at the wall, oh, they have a certificate in brakes. Okay. Don't be afraid to ask the BCBA. Do you have experience with this? And if they do, great. And if they don't, look for somebody else, right? But don't just accept tantrums. Don't just say, well, my child has tantrums because they have autism. These two things do not have to be together. I know this firsthand, that, I won't say that my child never throws a tantrum. I won't say that I never throw a tantrum. But it doesn't have anything to do with the autism at all. So make sure that that's the case in your family. And you can turn this around. With ABA, the possibilities are infinite, okay? And don't just excuse it because of the autism. We are here at the end of the show, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, and so I want to ask Emily to please show all the different ways that you can be in contact with us. I want to remind you that we'll be doing shows next Monday through Thursday. Losing my voice. We won't be doing a show on Friday, and then we'll be taking some time off for a holiday hiatus, and we'll be back mid-January. But some amazing things that we're going to do between now and next Thursday. All the things that we couldn't do this last week while I was gone, we're just going to jam them all into this 1 week. So on Monday, for instance, we're going to debut a new cooking segment with Lisa Ackerman from TACA doing some amazing, brilliant cook. GFCF. Y'all, it's going to be good, tasty. That will be on Monday at 10:30. Then we're going to have Dr. Travis Thompson Skyping in with us to talk about this autism conference coming up in January. And he, oh, what a brilliant, wonderful, sweet man who's really making a difference and has been for several decades in the field of autism. So that will be right after the cooking segment at 10:30. And then at the top of that hour, Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net will be joining us with his filmmaker partner, Noah, talking about their film, Shameless. Then Alex is going to be back with us Wednesday. Excuse me. I got 2 minutes left and I can't talk. He'll be back with us on Wednesday with Nancy Allspaw-Jackson, who for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Earlier on Wednesday, we'll have Dr. Doreen Grampichet here for Ask Dr. Doreen. It's really going to be an amazing week. All next week, we're going to be featuring a toy a day, and I have been putting together some stuff about apps. Very excited to share that with you. I believe that's happening on Thursday, right before we head out the door here. So all of that and more next week, a really wonderful array of things, and your questions will be at the forefront. Again, as we close the show today, I want to thank all of you for all of your kind messages and condolences. For my mom, I want to say that, you know, this journey is an amazing journey, and that there are lots of people that help us on our way through, and I'm so thrilled that my mom got to see this. One of the things that she said to me right at the end was, what an amazing thing. And I will tell you that in the beginning, my mom was not on board, you know? And she would yell at me for saying that, but it's the truth. She was not on board, and when she would see some of the things that we were doing with ABA, she would, you know, and then I would say to her, you see how it's working though, right, Mom? And then she would say, you're absolutely right. And she became the biggest convert about ABA, the biggest fan of what was possible for our kids. So if you have a loved one in your life who is sitting there and saying, I just don't get this, I don't understand why, you know, give them some time, bear with them, let them see the evidence. Let your child reveal to them how fabulous this journey can be and how much progress there is. And of course, you know, as I said, my mom was thrilled with the progress that my child made, and that is an amazing thing. All right, we'll be back on Monday. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.